Or should I use that one? Where?
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hi, my name is Victoria Daniel, and I will be presenting a speech on a simple guide on how to nail your dream job interview. Everyone in their life has to go through job interviews. It's a dreading process, and I'm sure I can't be the only one who dislikes it a lot. I have compiled together a big list of all of the tips, tricks, and do's and don'ts of the interview process, including how to dress, what to know, and the follow-up process. They say that first impressions are everything, and they are correct. When you walk into an interview room, the first thing they notice about you is how you're dressed. It's a representation of how you are as a professional person. An article on the Michigan State University website states that you must dress in a manner that is professionally appropriate to the position for which you're applying for, which basically means dress for the job. So for men and women, I'm sorry, can you pause this? I completely forgot. Okay, so for men, as you'll see, I have 4 lovely people up on here that are all ready for their interviews. As you can see, for the men, they're wearing the works. They're having the suit, the jacket, the tie, the shirt, the shoes. They're all ready. And as you'll see for the women, you're generally going to be in a suit with pants or a skirt. So as you'll see, all 4 of them have one thing in common. They're all nicely groomed, and they're all in simple, plain, dark colors. So now that you know what to wear, I'll show you something that you shouldn't. When getting ready for an interview, you have to make sure that for women, your skirts aren't too short. If you're on the edge about if the skirt you're wearing is too short, always think dress conservatively. Or you can always switch it up for pants, but make sure you don't wear sweatpants. Those aren't good. Another thing you have to make sure is you avoid bright colors. Like our last 4 people, they were all in simple, plain, dark colors, which is basically professionalism. Another thing you have to make sure is that you aren't wearing clothes that are too tight or too loose. If your clothes are too tight, you won't be comfortable, and you won't do your best if you're uncomfortable. The second tip for an interview is to show what you know. According to an article written by The Balance, a helpful tip for when interviews come is to know what you're doing. That means research the company and find what they're looking for in an employee. So when they bring up what achievements have you done in life, bring up ones that you know that they're looking for. Also, do your research on the company and find out what they do so that you're not just sitting there babbling on about the wrong job. Another thing that you can be ready for in interviews is the interview questions, which is personally my least favorite part. I don't know about everyone else, but I'm horrible when it comes to questions. One question you get asked is, what is your biggest weakness? When it comes to that, you have to make sure that you don't pick a weakness that's relevant to the job, because that can in the end hurt you. Another thing is when they ask if you have any questions for them. You always want to be prepared and have a list of thought-out questions so that you're not sitting there just trying to think of something on the fly. A third thing is once you're all done with the interview, you may think you're free and good to go, but you're not. You have to do the follow-up then. The follow-up is a very important part of the interview. It shows that you really want the job and that you're dedicated and want to get it. So some to-dos and don'ts for the follow-up are make sure you send thank you letters. Even if you have numerous people, you have to make sure you give each of them one, and make sure you don't send them copies. Make each one individual and different to the other. When it comes to the thank you notes, you have to make sure you don't have any grammatical errors or misspellings, because that can look very unprofessional. Another thing you should make sure you do is follow up in general, especially if they tell you to. When following up though, you have to be aware that you don't do it so much to where you annoy them or bother them, because in the end that can be more hurtful than not following up in the first place. So in conclusion, next time you're running out the door for an interview, make sure you stop and make sure you are dressed professionally, are prepared for questions, and are ready to follow up. Take a deep breath, because you got this. Right. Any questions? Yes.
So you mentioned like with the follow-up, and you said like it's important to do it, but then you said too much might be like overkill. Like how much is too much?
When following up, they'll a lot of times tell you, oh yeah, follow up within the week. A lot of times in my experience, they'll tell you just a couple times, not like an everyday phone call like, hi, did I get the job? So, any other questions?
Should you go dressed the same way you did for the interview for your job, or
What do you mean?
like let's say you dress professionally? Should you go like that every single day to impress, or do you think that has like an effect on getting a bonus or a raise?
I think depending on the job you have, if we were say applying for Starbucks and I go in a fancy suit and such, I feel for the interview that is a good idea, but when going to the work after you have the job, I feel like then you should go by their dress code, which I believe is just collared shirts. Yes.
What interview question are you scared of when you go into an interview?
I think my most fearful interview question is honestly my biggest weakness. Because a lot of times I think, oh, public speaking, and then I have to make sure like, oh, hopefully that doesn't apply to this job. And so, any other questions?
What's the craziest attire you've ever seen someone wear to an interview?
I hadn't seen it in person, but I've heard some stories of someone going in sweatpants. And that's why I brought that one up, because that seemed a little bizarre to me. All right. Thank you.